Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Digimon Adventure 2020, episode 20. We're here with another episode, and last time we kind of continued off into a lot of plot lines that we had started, and it feels like this show is really getting going now. Like everything before that was like, a lot of setup, meeting the characters, getting their champion level Digimon partners, the ultimate levels. But then we get to the false Tokyo within the digital world, and things start like getting bigger. We see Devimon in full, following in that entire arc. Takeru and Hikari become a bigger deal. And we're just starting to really get things kicking off. It's really starting to become a much more interesting experience. Not that it wasn't interesting before, mind you, but it's definitely getting like more so. It's definitely like feeling like a bigger deal at this point. So in the last episode, we met Leomon. Leomon is one of those classic Digimon that every Digimon fan knows, and everyone like is just instantly ready to mourn for, because it's kind of a running gag that Leomon always dies. But yeah, and considering this is a remake, it's very likely he'll die again. In the original, I think it was Edamon who killed. Was it Edamon or was it Metal Edamon? I think it was one of the Edamons. Which, I mean, they're the same guy, but still. Either way, I think it was Edamon. So that wouldn't even be happening quite yet, unless they change that as well. But with last episode, the big thing was they found Leomon. They started working with the Resistance, Tai and Matt, that is. And at the end, while breaking into the space and everything, they ended up finding Takeru in a transport tube. He's basically the precious cargo that they had. So, raises a lot of questions. One, how and when did he get to the digital world? Because during the entire portion where we had the false Tokyo, the real Tokyo, like we saw, Takeru was there. He was watching everything that was happening, but he was still in the real world. Real world, again, it sounds weird to call it like that. I always call it real world, but technically the digital world is real too. So it's like the human world would be more accurate. But yeah, we saw him there, and we never saw him cross over. So it's like, when did that happen? How did that happen? And how was he caught? When was he caught? All these questions. All these hows and whens. Either way, the fact of the matter is that he did cross over and that he was caught. Now, we do know that Devimon can yeet people out of the digital world. We know that happened already because all of the chosen ones outside of Matt and Tai were yeeted out of the digital world. Devimon just like completely just like said, "Fuck off. You're going back home. Don't mess with me anymore." So like they got to wonder how they're going to get back. But also, if Devimon can toss people back into the human world, can he also bring people from the human world into the digital world at will? Because if so, that could explain Takeru. That could explain how he got there. Devimon might have pulled him in. That's an interesting thing. I don't think he did that in the original series. I might be wrong, but I don't think he did. mind you, like I've said in the past, it's been a long ass time since I've seen the original Digimon Adventure 1 series, so I don't know for certain. He might have done that, and I might just be forgetting. I know he could transport people around. Like, he did that on a number of occasions, but I don't think it was ever to the real world. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, the episode kind of ended with the revelation that Takeru was the cargo. And with it being Ty and Matt who found it, it's like, oh yeah, Matt is going to be having a bit of a, like, just moment of crisis here. You could already tell he was freaked out, but it's like it's been made very clear up to this point that he very much cares for Takeru, which very fitting, very fitting into the original series and everything. So it makes sense that he would be this worried, this scared, and everything. Now we knew Takeru was coming. We knew he was going to start being a big deal because of the outro and everything. So I'm wondering, are we going to get Patamon right away? It's practically confirmed that Angemon is the holy Digimon they've been searching for. But are we going to get Patamon right away? Or once they free Takeru, is that still going to be something we're going to have to wait for? Because patience was a big deal for Takeru's character in the original. He had to wait a long time to for Patamon to digivolve, even into Angemon, and just in general, he had to wait a long time for a lot of stuff. A lot of his digivolutions took a while. Just finding his crest, I believe, took quite a while too. Um, he definitely had a focus with patience, and I'm wondering if they're going to do the same thing here because everything else has been kind of expedited with this series compared to the original. So I'm wondering if they're going to still bring in that kind of thing or if they're going to expedite things as well. I mean, hell, in the original series, Angemon didn't even appear. Like, Patamon never digivolved to Angemon until Devimon. Like, that was kind of the big deal. Like, there were a couple moments where it was like teased, but the devolution never happened for the first time until Devimon. It was, I mean, obviously a big deal because Angemon versus Devimon makes sense. Um, I don't know if they're going to do it quite the same here because I mean, I stated I believe last time, like the original series ended this arc in like what 14, 15 episodes. So we're already well past that. We're already 6 episodes past that, and clearly we have plenty more to go for this arc. But there's also only 66 episodes in this series. I believe it was somewhere around there. Um, and again, I obviously that's not all going to be Devimon, so we're definitely going to go into Myotismon as well. And I don't know if we're going to do the Digimon Emperors or whatever they're called. I don't know. We're going to have to see on that one because it's hard to say, but it's like just the pacing of things. It's like, how is this going to go? It's so different from the actual original series, so it's hard to say. We'll see, though. We'll see. I'm excited nonetheless, because a lot of things have been teased. A lot of big things. A lot of big things are set up for the future, and I'm really interested at where this is going to be taken in comparison to the original. Um, just going to be very fun. Going to be very fun, very interesting. So we're just going to hope for the best. Hope for the best here. So that being said, we're just going to get this started. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, yeah, definitely doing some things differently here. Um, and again, unless I'm mistaken about something, but I don't believe I am, because I believe, like, in the original series, like, Takeru was part of the original lineup that went to the digital world altogether. He was at the camp too, I believe, or at least he went with them to the digital world initially. Um, and he got his Digimon partner right at the same time as everyone else, except Hikari, who was the only one to get it later. So I definitely don't think it happened like this. I believe it was more along the lines of he had like Patamon from the beginning, but Patamon was like it was like I said before, all about patience, all about waiting and everything. And Patamon was the only one who wasn't digivolving. But then in the battle against Devimon, he finally digivolved to Angemon, which was needed in order to defeat Devimon. But but after he defeated Devimon, he ended up being injured so much that he did die and was reborn as the Digi-Egg Digitama. Um, and that's when Takeru had to re-raise him and everything. So it's like this is different here because one, we're introduced to Velgramon, who exceptionally powerful Digimon. I have to believe has to be either just a really strong ultimate or possibly a mega. Um, Either way, excessively strong, to the point where everyone's having trouble. But then, as Takeru's being taken away again, he starts to fight back, which allows Angemon to find the power to escape his bindings and come to the rescue. Angemon rescues Takeru directly, as well as gives a enhancement buff to both Metal Greymon and Wergarurumon, allowing them to be able to take out Velgramon working together. The only way they would be able to, unless they became Omnimon again. But again, it hasn't been long enough to bring Omnimon back yet. So this kind of made more sense, I feel. But I guess it was because of the bindings and the fact that Angemon kind of like tore himself out of them and used up maybe so much energy as well, healing and buffing up the other two. Maybe that's why. But Angemon died again, or well, died here, not again, but Angemon died here, like how he died against Devimon in the original and turned into a Digitama. Except now it was taken by this Night Digimon. I've seen it before. I don't know its name offhand though. But it was taken, and Devimon is seen at the end saying that, calling for the Holy Digimon to return to him, which means that the way he said it is like it kind of implied that the Holy Digimon worked with him at a point. So that's interesting. But either way, so now the goal has gone from all of this other stuff to now they have to get back the egg. And of course, our group in the human world still have to figure out a way to get back as well. But our lead team, Tai, Matt, and now Takeru as well, their goal is to get the egg back. So that's going to be interesting to see how it works. Yeah, I have no idea how close to the end of this arc we are. I just feel like it's both going by like really slowly in terms of comparison to the original, but at the same time they're introducing so many things so fast. It's like hard to tell exactly how long it's going to take before we actually get to the end of the arc, before we get to the big Devimon fight and all. Is it just going to be that when like everyone comes back to the digital world and they get the egg back, Patamon is back, or well, Patamon arrives? Is that just going to be where it goes into? Like, at that point, it's like, oh, Devimon, we're gonna finally have the battle against Devimon at that point. I don't know. I don't know. That would be my guess because again, we only have a certain number of episodes, and it's like there's still the entire Myotismon arc to get to, and the Digimon Emperors, which it's like I don't know if we'll be able to get to both of those as well. We should definitely be able to get to the Myotismon one, but it's like I think that was a longer one in the original series too. So it's like I don't know how we'll be able to do that and the Digimon Emperors if we keep going too long on this one. I don't know. We'll see. Um, I definitely have been enjoying what we've been getting though, and this was a very good episode. I did really enjoy it. I just have no idea where it's going. Velgramon, I don't know. I don't know Velgramon, but it is creepy. It is terrifyingly strong, and yeah, it's just like it's a really almost kind of stereotypical design with the entire like edgy wyvern bird creature. It's very much like that kind of edgy badass evil design. It's nothing like too spectacular, too interesting, um, but it serves its purpose. It's very creepy. It kind of comes out of nowhere, excessively strong, and is a real threat here. Um, so it serves its purpose for sure. Um, we're just gonna have, like I said, we're just gonna kind of blah, blah, blah. I can't speak. We're just gonna have to see where this goes. Um, now I mentioned before I had watched the original series in the English dub. I never really saw the Japanese version. So I never heard much of the of any Japanese voices for these characters prior to this series, this remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it. Takeru sounds so extremely young in this compared to what I remember in the original. Like he sounded like a young kid in the original because he was, but not to this level. Um, like at least in the dub. In the original Digimon Adventure 01 dub, he sounded like a kid, yeah, but he didn't sound like a baby practically. Like if I just heard his voice alone, I would say TK here, Takeru would be no older than 4, which I don't think is the case. I think he's supposed to be like maybe 6 or 7, I want to say. Um, he sounds like no older than 4 in his voice. And it's like, it's almost weirding me out a little. In fact, I actually kind of want to check how old he's supposed to be. Like, I don't know, like, the actual age here. Um, I kind of want to see. I mean, I obviously I know he's younger than the rest of them, of course, but age, okay. Okay. So it's actually different in the original Japanese compared to the English version. Apparently, his age is never stated. According to what I'm reading here, his age is never actually stated in the original adventure in Japanese. In English, he's 7 at this point. At that point, though. Um, and in Adventure 2, he's 11 in the Japanese version and 12 in the English version. So by that logic, if like it's 7 to 12 in the English version, that would be 6 to 11 in the Japanese. If we're assuming it'd be the same amount of time. So 6 years old. He does not sound 6 years old here. I'm sorry, he just does not sound 6 years old. Um, He sounds like I said, at most 4. And it's nothing to knock. I'm not trying to knock him or anything. It's just I'm just saying. Um, and I don't know if that's like as much a thing in a lot of anime. Like I've heard plenty of characters who are around like 6, 7 years old in anime who don't sound that young. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that kind of threw me off a little bit when I heard his voice and everything. Because it like really hurt his voice. Because I think his voice was heard in the episodes prior to this, but not as much, not as notably. Um, Angemon's voice kind of threw me off a little bit too. But then again, it's like that happens in the Japanese anyways, just because I'm so used to their English dub voices. Um, so it's like a lot of their Japanese voices will throw me off more. Plus, I think a lot of the Japanese voices don't change as much between evolutions. In the English dub, they changed a lot more between evolutions. Um, they didn't really sound as much the same. So it's like the bigger, stronger, higher level Digimon would usually have deeper, more badass kind of voices, um, or at least just generally cooler ones. While the smaller ones would have more high pitched, squeaky or fun or like childish voices. They made them stand apart more. They made them stand apart more than at least from what we've seen in this Japanese version, from what we've heard. And it's not necessarily a terrible thing. It's not necessarily terrible. It's just it's so different than what I'm used to. Um, yeah, Velgermon didn't speak at all. I don't think the knight did at the end either. When he took the egg. Um, Not too much else happened in this episode though. It was mostly rescuing Takeru, um, fighting against Velgermon, and then the arrival of Angemon and turning into the Digitama. There's a little bit that showed the human world and Izzy and Sora talking to Tentamon and all, but all we really learned from that, the only thing that was really important with that entire part of the episode, was that we learned that the Digimon partners of the 4 that had been brought back to the human world, that they're in the net. That's all we learned from that. So not like, I mean, yeah, it's important, but not as big, and it definitely wasn't as focused on. Um, and we had a little bit with Leomon at the very beginning. It didn't really amount to like a huge amount, a big thing there, but it's like, okay, Leomon's just being a bro. That's cool. We can get behind that. But yeah, it didn't really amount to much overall in terms of this episode. Um, yeah, in terms of this episode, it's like I'm mostly focused on those few couple things. And that's fine. That's fine. That's all well and good. But it's like there are certain things that I felt were a little skipped over. That's all I'm saying. Not even necessarily in a bad way or anything. They just were. Either way, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Digimon Adventure 2020, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.